a voice spoke to me and said, be the bridge between the medicines. So when I recovered, I became a naturopathic physician, which our training is the same as any physician. It's just that we focus on the aspects of nature.
Aloha, and welcome to Healers' Voices, the podcast that brings you the healing heartbeats of Maui and around the world. I'm your host, Jessica Brazil, and together we embark on a journey to explore the inspiring stories of individuals who are making a profound impact on both local and global levels. From the powerful healing of Maui, we are here to amplify the voices of healers, visionaries, and change makers. We believe in the transformative power of dialogue to chart a future where all life thrives, living in harmony with the natural world and embodying the spirit of aloha. Aloha, welcome, Dr. Valerie Simonsen. Very grateful to have you here with us today. I feel like we are continuing the sacred pipe ceremony we were just in with Chief Lee Plenty Wolf, and just really grateful to know you and to experience the powerful medicine that you offer in this world, and inviting you to share with those listeners who maybe are not familiar with your way of working with medicine in the world to learn from you today about the powerful process of stepping into when it comes to health and healing. So welcome, Dr. Valerie Simonsen, naturopathic doctor, metaphysician, and incredible healer on our planet. So thank you for being with us today. I just want to welcome you to open us up in any way that you would like, and sharing of yourself as you establish a healing relationship with our listeners.
Thank you, Jessica. It takes me back to the moment when the fires of Maui 8/8/23 happened. And I remember the day I was driving into the west side, and I was talking with a friend, and I said, hey, I think I'm very, very sad. And then I went, no, I'm not. I'm in awe. I'm in awe to see hundreds of thousands of people helping one another. And I pulled into Honokawai, and people started to help me unload my truck. And in a short period of time, Jessica, you and I touched hands just briefly. As in the beginning there, we never had more than 3 seconds to be with one another, right? But one day I watched this woman help one of the clients that I was trying to help, and I couldn't get him to stop. He was in such deep shock. And I watched this woman on the ground playing bowls in this hand pan, and this man approached her, and he eventually sat down with her for over an hour. And when he walked away, he was a different man. And then later, I was going past you, and you grabbed my hand, and I said, oh, you got to meet this woman. I just watched her do this thing, with sound. And wow, she said, yeah, that was me. And we'll be working together. And that's what we've done. And that's what I have seen on this planet. Unfortunately, it took a crisis to bring together all these amazing people. But it's an amazing thing. We were communicating in a way. There were no radios. There was no phones. Yet I knew what that person needed. You knew what this one needed. And we danced. There were a whole bunch, 100 of us, probably better, of healers out there, medical professionals. And we all just did what we did.
And I have chicken skin just even remembering, because even the people who needed help, they knew who to gravitate toward that could help them. And there wasn't lines, there wasn't, we didn't have technology. So if we wrote anything down, it was on paper. It was to send a runner to go figure out if there was a pharmacy open, because most of them were closed, to get a medicine or to help somebody get, some type of wound care or emergency service. But really what was incredible is how much medicine we could practice in a variety of ways in the natural environment. And I saw you in particular shine, having such a strong connection as a naturopathic doctor, foundation of already knowing so much about our human connection to nature, and that there being so much medicine available to us in our natural environment, not just from plants, but from our human connection, from our spiritual connection. And I would love to hear a little bit more about the foundation that you stepped into that space with, that I got to see so alive and in such a strong role of leadership in that moment.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. When I reflect on that, of course, the first number of days, we're kind of all in shock, right? But there was a day when we were able to get people to lay down on the table. Ki'i had created a beautiful site there with tents, and it was interesting. My first client, he didn't talk about the fire or any of that tragedy. He actually went to when he was a small child. And then the next person, it was the same thing. It was the next thing, going back to where did it all begin? Which brought me to, where did I all begin? How did I get into this naturopathic medicine? And what is this naturopathic medicine anyway, And I was an EMT in Montana for 15 years, going to be an ER physician. And in pre-med, I was very, very ill and met a naturopath, and I had 3 near-death experiences. And in my surgery, ended up with surgery. The surgeon, they were just wonderful. What they did saved my life. But a voice spoke to me and said, be the bridge between the medicines. So when I recovered, I became a naturopathic physician, which our training is the same as any physician. It's just that we focus on the aspects of nature. Now, I'm an old-time naturopathic physician. I got to be with some of those old docs, right? And really learn it's plant medicine, and not plant medicine what you're hearing on the street today, but a basil or something like that can take care of a situation. Like holy basil, and that's been one of my go-tos since COVID came around. As it's an antiviral and does all these kind of things. But one of the main medicines that I have used all over the world, I've done international crisis relief work for, oh gosh, I don't know, 30 plus years, maybe 40 years, is flower essences. And my favorite company is the Flower Essence Society out of California. And an amazing event that really changed my life was when my granddaughters were born, Dahlia and Lily. And they were born 1-pound babies. But I remember what Patricia, the owner of the Flower Essence Society, told me on my way as I was flying into Idaho to be with my daughter for the birth, was she said, don't worry about Lily. She'll be just fine. One's Lily, one's Dahlia. And when Lily came home, the NICU nurse told me that she'd never seen a lily die in the NICU, because the lily plant, the lily flower, has a bulb that has all the food inside that bulb. And if you're out hiking and you need food and there's a lily plant, you can eat that, right?
Yeah.
So I've really done a lot of inner research and outer research too, looking at everything. How is that? How do these plants heal us? And one of the things is their DNA is basically the same as ours. It's just the combination of how it is put together. We share a lot of the same genes. And when we come together, our body recognizes that. And it's interesting because when I worked at NARA in Portland, Oregon, that was a Native American Rehabilitation Center, we had excellent success using Western herbs. But then we opened a Eastern uh, clinic, mainly for people from oh the islands, Thailand, things like that. A lot of immigrants, refugees. They didn't do well with the herbs. So then we used Chinese herbs. And then we were able to understand that I can remember the day we did this. We were treating hepatitis. It must have been hepatitis C. And we were using an herb that came from Southwest America. And one of the doctors said their DNA recognizes that plant because their ancestors had that plant.
Mm,
And we were seeing the same thing with the Eastern herbs.
yeah.
So just standing next to a tree, I live in the jungle here on Maui, and I have huge windows. Everywhere I look, there's nature.
Yeah.
I'm getting my medicine just by looking, and they're sending out their love. They want to be here for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like you have a lot of experience bridging this medicine connection between DNA and what natural remedy gets to the root cause of disease, or lack of ease is what I like to say. What is the turbulence or the discomfort that's happening in our physical body, which is a temple. It is a host for the spirit that is moving through us. And yeah, I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about this philosophy of, when a tree's sick, we fix the soil, or we, go deeper into the roots.
You're right. We get into the roots. And COVID was one of the best gifts for me.
Mm,
Worked my butt off, right? But we didn't have medicine. We couldn't get supplements. I
mm,
couldn't I couldn't find things for people that were very, very ill. So what I had to do was go back to the plants because there
mm,
was no other option. And even with the plants, we had amazing shortages once the word got out that OSHA was working for the cough, or the different things that we had. But in that time of COVID, I really found that place within everybody I treated, and I treated hundreds of people with COVID, that you fixed the gut, which is
mm,
this.
mhm,
Give them a little herb, take care of the virus, because herbs are antiviral.
mhm,
Deal with the underlying issue, which is the roots,
mhm,
which is usually some kind of trauma. Like, I think of this one person, it was her husband retired, went and spent their whole retirement on a big boat and a motorcycle, and then she got sick, right?
mm,
But once she was able to understand what it was all really about, and we fixed her digestion, which is the soil. The doctors couldn't believe that she got full function of her kidneys, liver, pneumonia went away. She was fine.
mm,
She was fine. Now,
mhm,
she was fine for a while, but then she got sick again. So we looked at, okay, so what's different? Well, she decided she was going to go back on her own diet, her old diet, which was white flour, white sugar, sodas. I said, oh, great. Well, let's just go back to what you were doing before. She was doing fresh vegetables. She wasn't able to get organic. It would have been ideal to have organic, but they were
mhm,
definitely non-GMO.
mhm,
And she went back to her vegetables, and she did eat animal meat products. She got better.
mhm,
Used a little bit of uh, anti antibacterial herbs, and she was fine. And she's been fine since then.
mm.
because she finally got it, right?
Yeah.
And I
You
think
know,
that's the thing. We'll finally get it, right? But then we might slip back.
it's really interesting to me because I have studied and found my healing path has been very connected to somatic awareness and noticing what is the electrical current happening in my body, like the emotional
Mm.
response, the spiritual essence, and then any physical discomfort or comfort. There's subtle shifts that happen, and the stomach is connected to our soul body. And all of our souls come into existence with a certain, I believe acupuncturists define it as a constitution, where certain
Mm.
elements may be more dominant. In Ayurveda, I believe they talk about it as a um, dominant,
Yeah.
is it dosha, I believe, right? Whether you're vata, pitta, kapha. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so when we're looking at one person's constitution and alignment and what they need to be nourished, it may look different than another's. And it makes a lot of sense to me that our stomach and our soul body, so whether it's food, environment, the land, the plants, the relationships, the religion, the meditation practice, the prayer practice, right? That all has this interesting, beautiful recipe that aligns with our most natural rhythm and relationship with nature. This is an area that, within that practice of metaphysics, as a metaphysician,
Mm.
when you speak about this like process of also being a bridge between medicines, but also photosynthesis.
Mm.
um, I'm curious to hear a bit more about this regenerative process in humans that you were just beginning to speak to, and finding that that you have a gift, right, for discovering with another person. When you were working with somebody recently, you used a medicine wheel and colors
Oh
to
yeah.
match and help a patient really understand and make the connection in their health with
Mm.
what foods correspond with the organs that were out of balance in the
Mm.
medicine wheel, the color wheel,
Mm-hmm.
to create more
Mm-hmm.
harmony. So that's like a lot of layers. But when it comes to food and nourishment, I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about your relationship to our
Thank
cellular
you.
and nourishment.
Yeah, I think of and have deep gratitude of Harriet Witt, the great uh, scientist here on the island, and we walk together frequently. And one day, she was reminding me that because of our DNA, we have the ability to have photosynthesis just like the plants do. And the only part that we acknowledge in science as of today that I know of, and there may be more research on this, but is vitamin D, right? You go outside to get your vitamin D levels up, right? But when I've thought about it, how did people accomplish what they did before we had cars and all of that, the covered wagons coming across the United or the land in America, or the voyagers. How did they really do it? Well, that sun, which can be seen as the sun, is
Mm-hmm.
also a generator, and
Mm,
it restores the cells. And when
mm-hmm.
we look at stem cells in our body, there's a copper peptide that's in our stem cells that is activated with sunlight.
Mm,
And so, as we are like a plant, which means when the sun goes down, you go down. When the sun
mm,
comes up, you get up, right?
mhm.
And you ever been in a field of sunflowers
Yeah,
where the east and then they turn,
yeah, it's
right?
so fascinating, right?
It is
What a
amazing.
what a life, what an intelligent life form, right?
And I remember when I first came to Maui decades ago, and the sun was going down, and I pulled over there in Kihei to watch the sun go down, and this Hawaiian man comes and sits down with me, and we're just in silence, and my pager went off. That was long time ago, pagers, right? And it was the hospital. And so I called, and they said da 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 da, and I said, "Oh, okay." And I got up, and that guy said, "What can be so important that you can't take one more minute of your life and watch this?" And I said, "Well, I gotta go." And I got in the truck, and I headed to the hospital as fast as I could get there. They had it handled by the time I got there, and I missed the sunset.
Mm.
And that really made a difference in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a sign. I used to be in construction, and there was a sign of Ziggy over my desk. And Ziggy's looking out the window as he's washing dishes, and it says the work. Oh, and there's a rainbow out there. The work will wait, the rainbow won't. The work will wait, the rainbow won't. And you are the rainbow. Jessica, you are the rainbow. I am the rainbow. Everybody is the rainbow. We need to go back and be that. And one of the things that you got to experience the other day is how we eat a rainbow. Get all the colors in that rainbow, right? Green, the green is taking care of the liver. And the liver right now, it's still spring, and the liver really needs a lot of help. And the plants that we need to heal the liver grow this time. Dandelion is the best thing for the liver, one of the best things for the liver. That's why it comes up in the spring. It knows that.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be an interesting food, rather than a food pyramid, a food wheel that was seasonal, a food medicine wheel where we could, each geographical area that we're living, because there's also a relationship between eating close to your environment, your natural environment, because it produces so many of the medicines for the disease that are closely, like, what is it, the cure is often sitting very closely to the cause of an illness. So how beautiful would that be?
Yes. And the plants know when to come. They know when to leave. And they don't have to be told what they need to do. They just know. I remember the first time I gave Vitex to a man, and it's a woman's herb. The history of it, it's a woman's herb. But I kept on hearing, give him Vitex. He called me that night. He was so upset. You gave me a woman's herb. And I said, I know. It just kept saying to do it, whatever it is, right? And then he said, well, I'm not going to take it. And then years later, he called me and he said, I need to apologize. Now there is scientific research that Vitex does help men with this issue that I have. And I went, oh, okay, great. Science caught up with what nature already knows.
Yeah.
And, do we need to do more scientific studies? Oh, maybe we do. That sure is giving people a lot of jobs. But the greatest study to do is what happens in your body when you sit down on the beach. What happens to your body when you touch a plant? What happens in your body when you eat that cherry that looks like your heart? What happens? That's the greatest experiment, and in the research I think there is to be found. And somebody the other day used the word me search instead of research.
Oh, I like that.
I know, I love that too. Which takes me down into you know more.
Yeah.
You know
Tell us a
more.
little bit more about this. So you started a nonprofit called You Know More.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it was inspired by some experiences. I wonder if you could speak a little bit to the inspiration and why You Know More came into existence.
Thank you. Well, I was in Bali, and helping Robin Lynn at Boomy Sahat delivering babies. But there was a woman came in one day that was paralyzed. She couldn't even swallow, couldn't talk. She 10 years. She's only 35, and uh, skin and bones. But I gave her a homeopathic for a head trauma because it was a stroke. But I looked into her eyes, and I could see a spark. And then I brought her in every day, and I worked with her digestion, and I taught some of the people that were working there a bunch of natural things to do, castor oil packs, homeopathy. She's already getting acupuncture. And one day I was walking away from her cot, and she said, "Man, oh man, oh man." That was the first time she spoke in 10 years. The family just cried, because when the Balinese come, the whole family comes to the doctors, right? And I mean, we were all just crying out of pure joy. This woman, 10 years, paralyzed, talking. And within the time that my visa was complete, and I kind of went over my visa a little bit, cost me a little money, but she was walking. Her muscle mass came back so quickly. It was incredible to see. So one of the practitioners had been working with her for 10 years, asked me one day, "What did you do? How did you do that?" And I said, I think the only thing that I did different than you guys is I believed in her. I believed that she had it. And I could see that spark in her eyes. Right? And we all have that spark. And sometimes we have to look pretty hard in that mirror to find it, but there is a spark there because we're still alive, right? And then I went to the next country, and then I got you know more. That's what it is you know more. And so that was my mission for years until COVID hit. And I had 5 peers commit suicide.
Wow.
And
during COVID.
Yeah. First few months, doctors, healthcare providers, all of them are healthcare providers. And I have friends all over the world. And I remember one of the institutions said, "You can't say suicide anymore. You need to say they took their own life." I went, "Okay, well, let's call it what we want to call it. They're dead, right?" And I got to do something to help my peers because I don't want to see any more of my peers. And that's when I started the nonprofit, You Know More, to help people come home to the nature of their nature. And thank you for being a part of that.
And I've witnessed also, some peers experienced some peers go down in different ways. I like to say, or that just their spirits are so broken that there's a part that just says there's been such a disconnect, and sometimes that does lead to taking of one's life. And yet, when somebody's really deeply and truly seen, which I've seen you have a real gift for, is seeing that person on that depth of their soul level. And something comes alive inside when that occurs. And I was talking with Chief Lee's assistant about this, just about the culture of the world that we live in, this disconnect with our elders, and then also through the lifespan, humanity not going through different rites of passages that are really important for us to progress and grow and evolve, because all of these different stages of life being interconnected with one another are super important. The innocence of a child brings us back into knowing our inner child. The wisdom of the grandfather and the grandmother gives us a sense of knowing, a sense of depth, of connection to our soul essence and to nature. And then, of course, these growing stages where we really need some mentorship or confirmation or connection, or even just more spaciousness to grow and learn through all the hard knocks and the ups and the downs and the different directions. So when you start stepping into seeing somebody,
Mm.
and I'm curious to hear a bit more about these topics of these 5 R's that you speak to, because when I see you looking at people, you're not just looking at one part, you're looking at multiple parts simultaneously. And so I'm curious to hear about this philosophy that you use in your practice around the 5 R's.
Thank you. Yeah, I call them the 5 R's, but we all have all the senses, right? Or some people can't see, but they hear really well.
Yeah,
Whatever my particular greatest sense is, I'm a vision. I see things.
yeah.
It's like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So at one time I asked, okay, I want to have all my senses alive, which
Mm-hmm.
afterwards I'm like, what did I just do? I can feel everything. Being an EMT for so many years, 15 years, I didn't feel anything. Somebody asked me one day, how do you do it? And I said, they're just a piece of dead meat, on the highway. You just pick it up, right? But I remember the day I felt that, and it was like, whoa, this is intense. But as we honor whatever sense it is that is our greatest sense, then you can depend on that. I've always been one that sees things. When people talk, I see what they're saying, but I also see what they're not saying.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can hear it, I can smell it, I can taste it, and then ask the question. Ask the question. And Dr. Beardall one time from the hospital, he said, had a situation I needed his mentorship with. And he says, Valerie, how do you get to these people to tell you this stuff? And I said, I'm asking the question you guys are too scared to ask. And that's what we need to do, is ask ourselves. We already know what's going on inside of ourselves. And then to find a place where we can be supported to be whatever that is. And with the 5 R's, have rejoice, return, repurpose, revere, and have a renaissance, is just knowing, yeah, I got this. This is me. This is who I am. And then to return to, I call them the nuggets. We have a history. We've got a lot of teachings that we've learned over the years. And then how to repurpose something. So like I was with someone the other day and they were working with fear. And I said, okay, fear has done this for you. What do you want it to do now? So give it a new job description.
Yeah.
I was taught in metaphysics, love and light, let it go. No, that's energy. Keep it. Put it into something else. Mold it into what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then to revere
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and all of these gifts. And when we do that, we have a renaissance. And
Mm-hmm.
it's daily. It can be secondly if we're really aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how do we get aware is slow down.
Yeah, and I like to say it's coming into our sacred rhythm, into a timing, a cadence. Like we all have a different rhythm and timing and cadence. And time, the linear time, the system time, doesn't always match with something that's moving through us. And so we have to find a way to, if we want to be healthy, to find some harmony with living in the natural world and the systemic artificial world that's influenced.
Jessica, the one thing is I'm watching the plants outside this window. They don't question their value.
Yeah.
They just show up.
Yeah.
That tea leaf knows why it's here.
Mm-hmm.
That tea leaf knows, that tea plant. But humans have been programmed that you're missing something.
Yeah.
And you've got to achieve this and you got to do that. And I mean, I have spent my whole life trying to prove myself. And that was what came through the other day with our pipe ceremony with Chief is, I'm letting the metaphysician out. That's who I am.
Yeah.
I cannot prove this stuff. I'm not going to spend my time trying to find research that would validate, you know what? I was born with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. And I'm so glad that you've stepped into it fully because it is who you are. And anytime we are holding back who we are, we're not able to offer the harmony that this world wants and needs. So I just want to say thank you for being one of our healers' voices. Our listeners, if they want to learn more from you or they want to work with you, they feel connected to this way of being and knowing, can you share your website and ways that to get in touch with you?
Yeah. The website
Yeah, I
is,
see on your title you have drvaleriesimonsen.com.
that's it. drvaleriesimonsen.com.
Okay, and that's spelled Simonsen. So no
Yes.
period, just www.drvaleriesimonsen.com. Any final closing statements, prayers, or messaging you would like to close us with today for our listeners?
Yeah. Thank you. There's two words, doubt and fear. If there's doubt, don't. But if it's fear, face it.
Okay.
And we're going to face it, right? Today we
Yeah,
face it.
yeah, we sure did.
And I believe in you. I believe in what you're doing, Jessica. And thank you for sharing this with the world.
Thank you. Thank you for being one of our medicine voices.
Mm.
Thank you for showing up in the world in this way. So, doubt, don't. Fear, face it, do.
Yeah.
Okay? So, we got our do's and our don'ts for today at the
Yeah.
core of our being. So, we just want to thank our listeners for stepping into this conversation, for really deeply hearing and seeing, and more than anything, knowing the truth.
Mm.
Because what lands in you and stirs something, some aliveness or some knowing, that's that medicine for our listeners. So thank you, Dr. Valerie, for sharing today. And we
Thank you.
hope to have you again soon.
Aloha.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey through the heartbeats of healing. We hope that Healers Voices has filled your heart with inspiration and brought you closer to the spirit of aloha. As we conclude this episode, we invite you to continue this important conversation in your own life. Let these stories and insights resonate within you and inspire change in your own community and beyond. Remember, the power of healing is within all of us, and by working together, we can bring positive change to our world. Let's move forward with compassion, understanding, and a commitment to living in harmony with nature and one another. We'll be back with more incredible stories and voices of healing from Maui and around the world. Until then, please remember to follow and like us to support this continued raising of awareness, and continue practicing, embodying, and spreading the aloha spirit to make a difference in the world. Mahalo for listening to Healers Voices. We'll meet again soon.